So, question for you. If you could cut down on your commute time, save about 30% in your housing costs, and save a lot more money each month, would you do it? Chances are everyone's like, you had me at commute time, but yeah, that's what we're talking about, saving more money. This is the headline here. California's teacher village model spreads as housing costs soar. We are talking about a school district and teachers, and we have a lot of teachers in our community. I want to hear from you on this one, but this could apply to any organization or company. Basically, what if work helped you with housing costs? Essentially what we're talking. I want to read through this because I think it's fascinating. They use an example of a teacher here. I guess she gets up at basically 5:30 in the morning, has to leave her house like at 6, and then starts work at 8 because the commute is so far. This is the quote here. Quote, we have talked as a family about honestly, not even just leaving the district, but leaving the state just because it's so expensive. And this teacher is 30 years old. This is a thing that faces a lot of people, right? If you want to live somewhere, close to work, it's just way too expensive, and you end up living really, really far away, which eats at your time, which eats at, effectively quality of life. What the school district did then is they bought a bunch of apartments nearby, and they're offering a 30% discount. I'll read the details. It says, now her employer, the Monterey Peninsula Unified School District, is throwing a lifeline by becoming a landlord. The district paid $35 million for 64 apartments. It will rent to its staff at reduced rates, so $1,500 a month for a larger one-bedroom units, for example, or more than 30% below market rate. That's obviously very, very good. 30% below market rate. It says demand is high. Of course, everyone wants it, of course. Gonzalez was among about 200 employees, including one with a 2-hour commute each way, who entered a lottery for the units. And I have not heard of this before. That's why I'm going with you. It's news to me. I'm not shocked. I can certainly see this model playing out. I already know in USA, universities do this kind of thing. I can tell you, living abroad where I worked, because I was a professor for many years, basically it was either subsidized or free housing. It was a big attractor for me. It was a way to save money. It's just practical. Like if your work provides you housing and it's right next to work, you don't have to get a car either, which has also been something that has been big for me. I like cars, but I prefer to save money. Cars are basically a black hole where you dump money into. And then also it's just time. I don't want to do 2-hour commute kind of thing. And so for me, this is the life, right? If you can live close to work again, there's so many advantages. Monterey District's move into residential real estate is part of a growing push by school systems nationwide to offer employer-provided housing, okay? This comes as many middle-income Americans, municipal workers, police officers, firefighters are priced out of towns they serve. And so, yeah, we're talking about teachers to begin with, but you could do it with any number of workers, right? Government workers or, companies. And I can tell you also overseas, they'll do this for many companies. So I'll give you an example, say here in Korea, which is a common thing. Sometimes you may have a part of town that a lot of workers at, particular, you could call it district or company live in. And so a company will actually provide a shuttle so you don't have to have a car essentially, and you can take the shuttle into work. These kind of things that companies can do just makes it better quality of life for everyone. Workers are more likely to stay and be happy. You got more productivity that way. And I think the school thing is something that we may see more of. Obviously, everything takes money, right? And you can see, though, the demand is so high, they have to have a lottery, which is kind of nuts in itself. And we'll read more. It says, California, infamous for high housing costs, sits as the epicenter of the teacher village trend. Statewide school districts have created about 1,000 units, mostly since 2022. So this is relatively new. More than 1,800 additional units are in the pipeline from San Diego to San Jose. And we have a lot of people who live in Southern Cali. So please let me know if you've heard about this kind of stuff. I think it's a good way to retain teachers, and just thinking of the system as a whole, not just teachers. We're going to talk about, police officers, firefighters, these kind of things, like the system as a whole. If you have happy city workers in your community, that makes everything better. It makes quality of life better. The infrastructure and the backbone of any society you want to support. And that goes for all people and all workers. And it's frustrating every day we talk on the channel how basically Musk and Trump hate workers, which I talk about several times. They don't want to pay people. They want to cut all your benefits. And it's just like making everything essentially Squid Game. It's frustrating, but it is nice to read that at least California is doing something here to make it, life more livable. The objective is quality. Market rate units at a discount, said Bay Area developer Bruce Dorfman, whose nonprofit education housing partners works with districts. Quote, there's generally no pools and no hot tubs, so it's not luxury, which is fine. But they have community rooms and fitness centers and lounges. And actually the fitness center thing, depending how good it is actually a pretty big deal, because these days in USA, gyms are expensive, as you guys know this. And also you got the problem sometimes gyms scam you and stuff. There's a lot of scams in USA. They showed one building here. It looks kind of like this. This would be the inside. It looks fine. And if one bedroom's $1,500, I don't know what a 2-bedroom or whatever would be. We'll just say maybe it would be more like $2,000, something like that, or probably maybe $2,200. Stuff's expensive these days, but this would obviously be much lower than market rates. If you guys know the price of stuff in California, which I can tell you, it's not unusual to hear of people in LA, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a month. You'll hear about these things. It's like things that are expensive. Anyone who lives in some of these states, you'll know. And if you live in a smaller city, you're like, oh my God, do people pay that? Yeah, they do. It's really expensive. It's really, really expensive. So $1,500 is pretty cheap for California. PK Diffenbaugh, Monterey, Pennsylvania's superintendent, hopes to slow a revolving door. So he says, or she, we don't know exactly, he or she, about 100 teachers, close to 20% of total, leave every year. So about 20% of teachers leave every year. So turnover is not good. It's not good for kids, not good for anyone, right? Driving in the exodus is straining, making ends meet in the seaside city known for scenic beauty, marine wildlife. And Monterey is really pretty, for those of you who have ever been out there before. Quote, I think the failure of California and just in general to build enough housing for people who have regular jobs has made it a necessity to get involved in the game. If we don't do it anything, the cavalry is not coming. And that's something that I think we need more of probably in USA is more multifamily housing, just affordable housing. The way the real estate market is, there's not much inventory even for people, not even talking about for multifamily, but like if you want to get into a starter home, there's just not much available out there. And it's really tough. And the other problem is the way US cities are designed. It's not really built for everyone. And there's like neighborhoods are really, really separated. So for example, I always use the same example, but when I lived in LA, Beverly Hills, which is obviously the wealthy area, they would always vote down mass transit, right? They don't want any buses or subways or whatever. They just don't want mass transit. And I remember there was someone I know, I'll just say he's a Hollywood agent, so wealthy individual, and he would always celebrate that his kids are out protesting public transit in Beverly Hills. And I don't say anything because you don't want to get fights on social media, but that's the kind of people that they are. That they celebrate their keeping the sort of separation between classes. And the thing that's ludicrous about the way these kind of people think, and I get it, is that they want to go to their fancy restaurants, they want to go to their fancy stores, etc. But like people actually need to work at these places, And so then the workers who have to work at these places have to live like really far away. But there's multiple cases. I just give you one situation, but the thing is like, not every place in the world is like that, where the gap between wealth and poor is like really divided by region, and also in USA then it gets more complicated, divided by race and such. And cities just aren't necessarily sustainable, right? Simple example. Go to New York City. Yes, they're very expensive parts of Manhattan, 100%, really expensive, right? But at least there's mass transit to get to these places, right? So you could live across the way. Maybe you can live in the Bronx, and then you can commute down to Wall Street. And I'm not saying, that you have to build like a bunch of multifamily at Wall Street. I mean, the land is expensive. I get that. But at least there's public transit to get there, because you do need people to work in said buildings. Not everyone's going to be, millionaire, billionaire, trader or whatever. So these are just some examples of how you construct a city to be sustainable. More what it says here, it says some districts impose time limits such as 5 years. In theory, that might give teachers time to save for a down payment, although $500 a monthly savings squirreled away probably won't be enough. Yeah, it's just not enough. You guys know you need to save a lot more if you're trying to get a house. It's a little bit more of a Band-Aid probably than any of us would really admit, but it still feels like something that's really worthwhile. Let's read some more. They give you some more numbers here. Housing affordability keeps worsening for America's teachers. Between 2019 and 2025, Beginning salaries rose 24% on average, compared with 47% jump in average home prices and 51% in rent. So basically, it's just your salary doesn't keep up, and it makes it hard for people to go into education. And then also you have the problem culturally in USA, like America's so anti-education. It's so embarrassing. I can't say enough. And it's weird. You'll see people write in comments, "Oh, I hate teachers. I hate schools." It's like, oh my God, like you guys are crazy. And but I know not, if you watch my channel, you probably enjoy education. That's why we have these conversations. But yeah, it's weird to see this anti-education stuff. It's really, really weird. It's very different in other countries. I can just tell you what it's like in Asia. I can't speak to Europe. I just don't know. I'm curious though, like say in France or Germany, UK, right? I don't know. Spain. You guys in Europe, like, is a teacher someone that people make fun of? Do you want to underpay these people? Do you not respect teachers? I don't know. You can let me know in the comments. As I say, in age, it's different. It's a more respected job, and to be to treat teachers like this, it's kind of strange. And also, it's also considered stable in the government job. So I can't speak to Europe. I can tell you in Asia, it's considered a good job. School officials who view stable workforce as key to student success, which I agree. And also just bring up this whole student thing. You have stable teachers, you have more stable youth, you have a better future. For me, it's pretty obvious, but if you watch Trump and Musk, their idea is like, what? We need to replace all the teachers with AI. And yes, it's stupid. Yes, it's ridiculous, but it shows you how out of touch they are with regular people. Here's a quote here. I've had countless amazing employees leave because they go to Idaho, they go to Texas, they move inland, right? So they're looking for somewhere cheaper. And that's someone from San Jose is saying that, and they're trying to build a new unit for their teachers to live in. More. 70 miles south, Monterey is state's third district to take a different tack by buying an existing building. Okay. Says, according to Sarah Hinckley, California program manager for the Center for Cities and Schools at the University of California, Berkeley, Diffenbaugh, the superintendent, saw a chance to expedite the process by purchasing a 64-unit complex, which is built in 1982 as an insurance building and recently converted to housing. So that's pretty interesting. And you could do a lot with these kind of conversions because, these days with work from home, there's a lot of commercial space that could be redesignated as housing, and it could really revitalize a lot of, you got construction jobs to convert all of these things because the nature of stuff is changing. And then you also have people who are able to live closer to work and stuff. So this sounds pretty good, but money's got to come from somewhere. So you just be honest with you about that. Although this is peanuts compared to what we spend on our, data centers supposedly. Because listen to the numbers. The $35 million complex from a $340 million school facilities bond, so I had to do a bond for this, that passed last year with 64% support, so most people are okay with it, from voters in the district, which covers Monterey and 4 neighborhood areas. A management company will operate the building. Diffenbaugh doesn't want tenants coming to the school board meetings to complain about a leaky faucet. So, and also to be frank with you guys, I'm sure there's, some sort of finagling there and who gets the contracts or whatever. But in terms of if the USA were serious about education, this is one way that you could really help. And this is pocket change compared to, say, how much we spend on blowing up boats in Venezuela or whatever. Do you guys see what I'm trying to get out of here? You value education, you put money towards it. Yes, you can fix problems. Republicans always like to say, oh, you can't fix problems by throwing more money at it. Just homeschool everybody. It's like, they say stupid crap all the time. That's why I'm going with you. Like, just talk like a normal person, like hear normal people problems. So for example, here's another one. The local teachers union applauded the venture, but notes that only a fraction will benefit, so not many people can take advantage. The district must commit to, quote, sustained investment in salary increases so that teachers can afford to stay and build their careers and lives here. Diffenbaugh said the beginning teacher salary has risen more than 50% in 12 years as superintendent to over $60,000. And I want to hear from people who know the current salaries. That sound about right. They're saying average salaries are around 84, and then top earners are at 120. And then this is in California, so this is going to be more than other states. So I'd like to just hear from on the ground people who know these numbers if you can confirm this kind of stuff. It sounds about right to me though. And then they also say Gonzalez, the first grade teacher, earns about $70,000 a year, netting $3,700 monthly. Her fiance receives $1,200 monthly disability. They pay $600 a month rent for a room in a 5-bedroom home by one of aunts. Another aunt lives there too. So I think that scenario where you hear these numbers, I think a lot of people are doing that, living with family. Now they could probably afford to move out, but just barely, and it probably wouldn't be a great place. And everything depends on location. So if someone offered them, $2,200 a month to, I don't know what the 2-bedroom would be. Let's say it's that. They said 1-bedroom was $1,500. So totally, they're bringing in like about, what is that, $5,000 a month. So, but even $2,200 a month would eat up close to half their income. So, and then you got insurance and food. Yeah, that's why they're staying at. I mean, then you do the math. That's why there's and that's the discounted place. Maybe like an actual place, to live in Monterey, might be even more than that. Yeah, things are expensive because they were saying they were selling stuff or renting stuff out for 30% below market rate. So they might be looking at $4,000 to live, in their own place. Theoretically, she heard about Monterey apartment plan earlier this year and tuned in to school board meetings for updates. She fantasized about winning the housing lottery. It's just crazy we're having housing lotteries. I love my family, but I'm more introverted and it's very crowded. There is mental strain with all the driving and having be on the road all the time. I see accidents all the time. And I used to live in LA, confirmed there's accidents everywhere. And then this scenario that we're looking at with someone, this represents sort of the mental state of many people in USA who are struggling basically paycheck to paycheck. And it's hard to change your situation. It's hard. I'll just be frank. It's hard. On November 5th, the district live streamed the lottery. Which is interesting in itself. They live streamed the housing lottery. I have never heard about this kind of thing. When I first read that, I was like, dang. The process gave priority to applicants by income tiers. So chances are you make less, you have a better chance of winning. And if you make more, you're not. Teachers and other credentialed employees, such as counselors, would get 70% of the units, which makes sense, right? With the balance for staff like custodians, right? So, and that's actually a good point to bring up also. There's not just teachers and such work at the school. Lots of other people work there also, maintenance, custodians, the cooks as well. You got to figure out how to make all this stuff work. Residents could stay up to 7 years, but must move if their employment with the district ends. Okay. That's an interesting point too. Put a time limit how long you could stay in these. Gonzalez watched the results on her phone from a drive-through as she and her fiance, Guy Hood, waited for their order. Soon, she could tell her number, put them in line for 1-bedroom at the Sage Green Complex in Garden Road. Here's some quotes. I think we got it, she recalled telling Hood, grabbing his hand. Her shorter commute will free up some 10 hours a week. I can use those 10 hours to do self-care or to decompress or to do things I want to do in the classroom that I can't because I just don't have the time. And for me, that this will, time is money. This will improve someone's life considerably. Here's another one. Another person says, it's just really a paycheck to paycheck right now. This is someone who's 31. The new apartment will lop nearly $800 off their rent, said his wife, 36. It will be a great help, especially when we're looking for childcare. But then not everyone gets it, as this person will explain. But many teachers, including Albert Platt, were shut out. He lives about 2 hours away in Modesto and often commutes in his Honda Civic. The Monterey High physical education teacher and assistant football coach, he said, leaves home at 4:30 a.m., so it's a similar situation, and returns home around 8. Sometimes he stays locally with friends. It's just too far to go. Platt, 44, was disappointed, although as a veteran teacher, his higher income made him unlikely to fare well. Even so, he said he loves his job and doesn't plan to look for one closer to home. Quote, I'm used to long days. So this is an example of just your average person in USA. I wish we'd have more discussions about this. I completely understand what's going on. I mean, I live in USA and I know how it is. But what's sad though is the current leadership is just no connection to this stuff. They're off building ballrooms and bragging about their crypto scams and saying how data centers are going to help everyone. It's just complete disconnect. And I would recommend anyone, right? It doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on, just pick leaders that actually know what your life is like and talk about actual problems, real numbers, and solutions. So I think the worker-sponsored housing is one way to go. There's lots of ways that you can do this kind of stuff, but you do have to acknowledge like the real costs that people are facing. And these are some realistic numbers in USA. So I do appreciate your time, everyone, and I'll catch you on the next video.